This week, an epic movie battle.
Mod Squad versus the Avengers.
So epic. An interview with Kiwi director Ant Timpson.
The best movies of 1983.
And I'm hosting.
What?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Good Movie Monday, your home of nerdy cinematic ramblings. I am your host, Ben Helwig, a.k.a. Shakademus, and sitting next to me, teasing me for the rest of the show, is my good friend Glenn Cochran, a.k.a. Pliers.
What?
Shakademus and Pliers.
Oh, okay. All right. Where did I get that name from?
Well, I was going to be Shakademus, so you had to be Pliers.
I guess so. Pick a reference I know next time.
In all honesty, as I was doing my notes, the song came on my Spotify, so I was like, I remember Shakademus and Pliers.
So that's how you work.
That's how I do work. 4:30 today. Believe it or not, Glenn, we have a jam-packed show this week. You're going to be talking to Ant Timpson.
Mm-hmm. I am.
About Bookworm, his latest movie that he directed himself, his very own self.
Fantastic movie too, well, I might add.
I still haven't seen it.
Glowing endorsement.
Just
Better than I have seen it and I hated it.
And the preview screening was at Backlot, I think. Which I don't know if I was invited to that one.
I wasn't.
There we go.
That was a while ago.
So if you weren't invited, I certainly wasn't. Because even though I've just said that I'm in charge and I'm Shakademus, the reality is that I'm Pliers and you're Shakademus in this relationship. We've got Terrific TV Tuesday.
Which is all about Ben.
Which is all about me.
Yep.
We've got the Boneheads, and they'll be exploring the year 1983, which is fantastic.
And we are too.
And we will be doing it as well. And then we'll suit up and duke it out over the Avengers versus the Mod Squad.
Now, when we say the Avengers, I'm sorry, but we mean the 1998
the 98
version. And
remake of the adaptation of the British TV
and
series.
was it 95 for the Mod Squad? I think.
No, it's 98.
98. They're both 98?
No, hang on. One's a year after. I think
Yeah.
Mod Squad's a year after.
Yeah, late 90s.
So basically what you could feasibly say is they learnt nothing from the Avengers and they went and made the Mod Squad.
More of that to come.
More of that to come.
Yes.
But before we start the show, we had a little trip, a little excursion this week.
Well, you had a trip. I had a big trip. I went back in time.
Did you?
I certainly did. Let's just talk about the movie and then I'll explain myself.
Okay. So we went to IMAX and we saw the latest Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17. Courtesy of
It's very hard to say his name without an accent, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Courtesy of Warner Brothers. Now, this film stars Robert Pattinson, 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 Mark Ruffalo, and Toni Collette.
Yes. He's got every single one of those written down. Every single one of them.
Now, I think I like this movie a lot more than you did.
You certainly did. You know, look, I have, I don't like to give my opinion coming straight out of the door, right? You know that. Like, I quite often like to sit on a film for a while and think about it. But this one didn't really get any better in hindsight. But I also come to the conclusion I think that he's an overrated director. I haven't loved everything he's done. I really enjoyed Memories of a Murder. I think that's what it was called. One of his early ones. And Mother, kind of didn't mind Host, but I thought it was overrated. And everything else, Snowpiercer, Parasite, I've just not, or Okja particularly, just haven't taken to any of them.
Watch Okja.
So
I don't need to watch any. I don't like watching movies where animals get hurt.
there's a bit of that in this, and I
didn't care for that part. That part really upset me.
And that part is like a little taste of Okja. Yeah. I liked the first half a lot of this film. I thought it was a really great setup. I liked the narration. I liked the quirkiness of it, but just where it all went, I just felt like it was a bit on the nose. It wasn't for me.
I really enjoyed it. Like it is that kind of science fiction I do enjoy. Look, it's got some. It has some shall we say, Trump parables in there.
It's just not even that.
But-
Like for me, it's just the social commentary itself. Like it's a bit too much for me. I just want to just escape into a movie and not have to have a reflection of society back at me.
But funnily enough, I didn't look. I found that stuff to be almost a waste of time. Like it was like it didn't actually impact really the main story at all, which is him just being him. I thought that was the
agree
most
with you, but that's what
interesting
disconnects
part of it.
me from it. There was just too much of that for me. Although Ruffalo did do the little.
He did do his little dance.
Yeah.
And he had great had
Oh my god, he could
some
hardly deliver
fantastic
lines
teeth.
behind those teeth.
And Toni Collette was great too.
She's always good though.
I keep forgetting how much you love Mafia Mama. And that's why that comes up.
I just like her, and I'd love to have her on the show. Like I just, I really, really do like her as an actress.
It'd be great.
Mental was really good. I like that.
Mental. The
Yeah.
TV show where she's got the split personality.
It's the follow up to Muriel's Wedding, where it's
Sounds a bit retarded.
there's a lot of that in the film. It's PJ Hogan and Liev Schreiber does the best Aussie accent in it because it's an Aussie movie.
Yeah, right.
It's great. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, Mickey 17.
17,
Or
but-
is it Mickey 17 or is it Mickey 19 or it just kept flipping all the way through the movie?
Well, technically, it's Mickey 17 and 18.
That's right.
Not to give anything away. But, look, I did enjoy it. My only gripe really is that it is a bit long, was my main issue. I didn't mind I just thought that, similar to kind of Parasite, and it's very much a hallmark, I think, of a lot of Korean cinema. It's a bit obvious.
Yeah.
Some of the society's woes kind of
Yep.
thrust back on you, and you're just like, okay, I get it. I know what you're saying. You could have done it in like one little bit. You could they could have had all that stuff at the start when they're going into space and why they're going into space, and that would have been enough.
I think that's what shit me.
They didn't need to take it with them.
I think that's what shit me because the movie was so glorious the way it opened itself up and established, even like it has a little prelude that then flips back on itself and the movie catches up to that point. That was great, but then it just unraveled for me.
The one thing I have to say, the one thing I didn't understand is why wouldn't everyone want to be? I mean, I get that they torture. Like the whole thing is that he is a disposable human who they will just experiment on because they can just reprint him.
Well, because they're off to colonize a new planet and they need a little guinea pig to make sure that everything's safe.
But if I had a bunch of money, I would just I'd have a private one of myself so that if I ever got killed or anything happened, I'd just reprint myself.
It's a fascinating concept.
Like if I got older, I just I don't know, I've got my body on file from when I was 20. I'm going to say 20 forever.
I mean, it's really just a remake of Multiplicity, isn't it?
Yeah.
They'll like that movie.
Or Eraser.
It's true. I didn't think of that.
Yeah. But
But
anyway.
I travelled back in time. We came out of this screening, and firstly, we get to the top of the escalator at IMAX, and there is a massive congregation of young people breakdancing to some classic sort of 80s music.
I have to say, they were more ray gun breakdancing than breaking to electric boogaloo breakdancing.
I mean, which was a really weird thing to behold, right? But it was cool. Like, I'm like, they're getting into it. I have
to say, I think that does happen there a lot.
It does.
It is
but
that kind of space.
It's usually skaters.
There is a lot of skaters there as well, yeah.
But I don't mind that this whole, breakdancing trend has taken off. Anyway, so that was cool.
But before you arrived,
yeah.
you came over the grassy knoll to get into the IMAX centre. On that grassy knoll, at about 15 minutes before you arrived, there was some people doing personal training. So there was a lot of air boxing.
Oh.
Which looked very similar to the breakdancing, except they were in Lycra.
Wow. But then I kept walking because I had to get to the station. And then I went past a second group of breakdancers, which I thought, that's okay. They weren't as good, which is saying a lot. I guess they hadn't graduated.
That was the actual ray gun.
They haven't graduated to the steps of IMAX yet. But then I kept walking, and this is going past the exhibition building. I get round to the other side. Do you know the little roadway where the fountain is at the front of the building? People will know what I'm talking about that live in Melbourne. I'm walking along there, and from out of nowhere, a group of maybe 20, I'd say 20 roller skaters came from out of nowhere with neon flashing wheels. And when you're in a movie, it's that person stuck in the middle and they're all flying past? That was me, just caught in the middle of this roller skating fucking derby. Like, what the hell's going on? Breakdancing back there. These weren't rollerblades. These were roller skates.
See, there was because it is Melbourne Fashion Week, and there was like a big event going on, but maybe that was just a smokescreen.
Wait for it.
A Warriors style.
At this point
meeting
in time,
of the gangs.
At this point in time, I felt like I was in a time warp. So I walked to the station, go down the subway on Parliament Station. It's right down. Get on the train. All's good and well, and then on walks a guy with a boombox on his shoulder, playing Lionel Richie's All Night Long, max volume. You know what? Normally, I'd think, Jesus, what a rude fucking selfish prick, on a train, crowded train, mind you, playing it. But I'll tell you what, everybody was up for it. Like, it was like, yeah, this has put me in a good mood.
But did it just have the one song on it, and then he turned the tape over and it just played that one song
We got off at Richmond, which was like just enough time to play the song.
Play the one song.
It's like he timed it, he knew it. Everyone you meet dancing on the street all night long. And I was up for it. I was like, I'm already committed to being in 1985 again. Like, I might as well go along with it.
You just cracked some debage on your phone?
I don't have a phone. 1985, you see.
Ah, yeah, right. You need your own Walkman.
Somehow I found my way back here.
You got travel back on the Cranbourne Pakenham line back into.
It's Terrific TV Tuesday, the only Tuesday TV segment that drops on a Monday.
Terrific TV Tuesday time. It's my favourite part of the show because it's all about me. But because I'm hosting, I'm going to be polite. What did you watch this week on the TV, Glenn?
Well, that's a good question. I haven't watched anything this week, but I have watched stuff in the weeks gone by, and I've saved one for you.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah. If this show was limited to actually stuff that we had watched during the week.
All right, start again. Yes, I've got one for you here, Ben. It's The Pit. Now, this is a brand new show that is from the makers of ER, and it is exactly ER. It's a contemporary version of that, and it does star Noah Wiley, who was one of the stars of ER. It started off as like a side player, and by the end of the run, he was like the lead.
He's the main guy.
Yeah, and he's the main guy in this, and it takes place in an emergency, I think it's Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken. Is it Philadelphia?
It's Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Because it's the Pit.
That's right, the Pit. Duh. And it's essentially ER done in a 24 format. So every episode is an hour of one shift.
And someone's trying to kill the president.
That's right.
Every episode in that emergency room. Is the president there? No.
No, but the receptionist is Chloe.
Doesn't stop him from trying.
And look, I find it a fascinating show because it's your typical formula medical show, just emergencies come and go. And because it's an emergency room, you can just hop, jump, and skip from like one patient to another. There's no real strong storyline taking place, but they do manage to do some character development in between, and I find that quite fascinating.
And that's the only reason you keep tuning in again and again, is for those little snippets of because of the medical emergencies. You're like, I don't care about this person.
But I'll tell you what, they're really graphic in this show.
Yeah.
Like they get really nasty,
like RPA kind of graphic.
Yeah, you feel like you're watching the real thing at times, and it's really disgusting but compelling. But yeah, I'm in it for those little in between moments. But I'm glad that they're small. They spend a minute doing this bit of development before they go back to the chaos.
When you kind of go back and watch ER, they do spend quite a lot of time on that stuff.
It's a melodrama.
It's a melodrama, yeah.
This doesn't feel like that.
Like I wonder, it'd be interesting. Like how you remember there was on one of the times that they hosted the Emmys, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler. They were talking about I can't remember the name. What was that show with
Chicago Hope?
No, the one about the spies. With Claire Danes and Mandy Patinkin.
Oh, I was almost going to say Mod Squad. Yeah, you're talking Homeland.
Homeland.
Yeah.
And she did that joke about, I like watching Homeland, but you know what's even more exciting? That show that comes on just before Homeland called Last Week on Homeland. Where it's just a clip show of the best bits. Like, they could just do the in-between bits, and it'd be like what was Jeff Katzenberg's little... VOD platform that he had for phones.
Oh, not Vine or no?
No, it was
I know what you mean.
Something, but it only had like the 5-minute episodes. It was basically he was trying to come up with a kind of a YouTube viral, but if YouTube was all done by professionals instead of any idiot with a camera.
That's right.
That's that would be an interesting bonus feature on the Pit
Definitely.
physical releases.
So there you go. The Pit, I highly recommend it. It hasn't quite finished yet, so there's a few more episodes to go. At the time of this recording, I think another 6 or 7 left to go. And it drops
so
every
it's
week.
only-
It drops
just,
every week.
Just started then.
Yeah, but it has. There's quite a few episodes. But yep, love it.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Well, I travelled back, similar to you. I travelled back to 1984 for my TV viewing, thanks to YouTube. And I watched this show called Travelling Man,
Interesting.
which is a fantastic show. Network did have it on DVD at one point in the UK, but they are now defunct, and the DVDs are very, very out of print. The show stars Lee Lawson, who's a recently released from prison ex-vice cop who travels the locks of Britain.
The Locks of Britain.
The
I
locks
love
of
it.
Britain on a narrow boat, fighting to clear his name, track down his errant son, and solve crimes in his spare time.
Wow.
It is, to use an expletive, fucking great.
That's awesome. It looks good. Just the stills alone. It's like,
It's a real slice of, like, if you like British TV from that period, then this is like the pinnacle of it. It's 6 episodes a season, 2 seasons. There is a YouTube playlist with all of them on there. You can just watch them one after the other, which I did.
That's how I went and redid the Henderson Kids.
Yeah, exactly like that. It's created by Roger Marshall, who, funnily enough, he wrote the screenplay for Attack Force Z. That's his Australian connection.
Okay, yep.
But he also wrote for The Avengers and Mitch, which was a John Law series, and
Yep.
a whole Spy Force and a bunch of other shit. He's like one of the, like any British TV show that you might have liked in the 80s, he wrote for.
Gotcha.
So yeah, definitely worth checking out on the YouTubes.
That, before we push on, took me down a little rabbit hole while you were talking, and I just discovered a show or a movie with John Lithgow called Travelling Man. Look at that. That looks fantastic. I'll whack it on the screen. I want to watch it just because of the costume.
Let's just watch it now.
Yes, that's great.
I hope, considering what he's wearing, I hope he goes into a cinema and gets a wristy from another patron.
Looks more like Hunter to me.
Yeah.
Yo, shut the fuck up. Don't make me slap your skinny ass. The boys got an interview for you, so keep your beer hole shut and enjoy.
As fun as it is with you hosting, I guess this is the time where I take over for a segment and throw to this interview I had with Ant Timpson, because as you said at the start of the show, you were not part of this one.
Nope.
This was interesting because it took place, I guess, maybe 3 or 4 months ago. It was supposed to have a physical release, never actually happened. And
I was searching for the notes.
And I think it's on digital now, but you have to pay to watch it, rent it.
Yeah.
But it hasn't got a DVD or anything like that, to my knowledge, at this point in time. I would have thought that Umbrella or Madman might put this one out.
Yeah, I don't know who picked. Yeah, I would have thought he's got a pretty good relationship with Madman.
And he's got a pretty good reputation as a filmmaker. He did Come to Daddy with Elijah Wood. This one, Bookworm, stars Elijah Wood. It's a fantastic movie. Really, really like it. It's a childhood adventure kind of movie, all set in New Zealand. Elijah Wood plays sort of a world-famous magician that's been embarrassed internationally, and he comes back to New Zealand to look after his daughter, whose mother has just recently died, and he was an estranged.
Did she, or did he just make her disappear with magic?
He was an estranged father, and he's got to build this bond up, and they go hiking. It's a bit like Hunt for the Wilder People as well, if that's the tone of the movie, if you like that one. Anyway, Ant Timpson's a great chat, so we'll play that for you, and just track it down, watch it. It's really cool. Hey, you and Elijah, you have a good thing going. I hope there's a lot more to come.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, we'll see how we go.
So Bookworm, this couldn't be much further removed from Come to Daddy. Funnily enough, it's both of them represent my 2 favorite genres, so I love that about these. What inspired you to make the big switch?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've been asked that for quite a bit, especially it's the first film that I kind of, my wife can recommend to friends and things that I've been involved with. The switch, it wasn't really like, let's set out to make a PG movie at all. It was really just what came from the characters and situations that we wanted to do. We knew, Toby and I, the writer I work with, wanted to make a wilderness film.
Yep.
And we wanted to make, it all came from the sort of singular fear we had of just our kids seeing fear in our eyes and not stepping up in a time of crisis. And that's kind of like the singular kernel of the idea that we went out with. And then it was to couch it in a wilderness film, which I grew up loving in the 70s. Like they were just such a popular staple of family entertainment. You know, you had the disaster movies at one end, which were kind of extreme and full on. And then there was this sort of like the families in jeopardy kind of genre, which was hugely popular and then kind of died and just went away. They didn't, you know, there was humor in them, but they were just sort of lightweight filler. They're not great works of art by any means, but they struck a chord and connected with a really mass audience. So this was kind of like a nod back to those types of films, and felt like a lot of films targeted towards kids felt like they pandered to kids these days, and the adults are an afterthought. Or, you know, when my kids were young, I was taking them to films and I was just suffering through the film, you know, and you know, some of the animated stuff, I guess, operates on every level. The Pixar peeps are very good at that. But in terms of family films, yeah, they just seem like they were a lot of the time talking down to kids. So we just wanted to, hark back to those sort of old school memories a little bit.
Yeah. Not enough family films put kids in peril. As far as I'm concerned, I think it's important to really, you know, challenge young minds, and I think this one does it. And with Nell, like she was the thing I think was one of the key ingredients when I saw Evil Dead Rise a couple of years ago. I thought she was, you know, fantastic, and not enough people paid enough attention to her performance. So I was stoked to see her in the lead here. How did she nab the part, and what was it in her that you saw was perfect for this role?
I mean, it was funny because we went to see Evil Dead Rise in pre-production down when we were down in that area of New Zealand.
Yep.
And so, yeah, no, Nell was recommended by casting, said check her out. I'd actually seen her in another New Zealand indie called North Spur, actually. And, you know, we ended up looking at 300 kids because you want to make sure the role is so pivotal that the whole film kind of hangs on it, right? So you just don't want to mess that up with the wrong. You could have a great actor just in the wrong part. So they kind of have to meet all the criteria, and just, you know, there's so much of Nell that isn't very similar to the character Mildred. You know, they're both. You know, precocious has become a word that's kind of tossed around and used as a derogatory term.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's just a kid who's absolutely confident and able to, you know, I feel like able to go toe to toe with adults.
Yeah.
And she can do that. Like, she's not phased by working, you know, with a cast and crew of like 60, 70 people, and she's the only kid. Just you'd never know. And so I just got that sense when we were talking to her that, yeah, this kid, she's Mildred through and through. And then when I saw her next to Elijah in the chemistry read, I totally bought that she could be his daughter in a way. They both got these wonderful, huge, big eyes, you know, that take up their face. And she just got it. She got the character really well. She did her homework. She is a bookworm, like complete bookworm.
Yeah.
And she just came really well prepared. She's just a smart kid, and she's going to be massive. Obviously, she's in the new Stranger Things. They totally saw where she was going. So I just felt like really lucky to grab her before we'll never be able to afford her again, probably.
Yeah, that's right. I hate the fact that my next question was going to mention the precociousness. But what I want to know is, like, was there a fine line and a balance on how far you push that precociousness? Because you can kind of put the viewer off if you go too far, but you kind of need it to be there at the same time.
Yeah, there's a lot of shaping goes on in the edit, you know, like you can sort of really feel that balance and the tone that you got to aim for. You know, you want your characters, if they're supposed to be slightly annoying or insufferable, you want to get a hint of it, but like how much is too much? You can't please everyone. Like some people, it's just, you know, then it's they're going to turn on the character really early and not be won over. But I think the majority are won over by both of them, because Elijah's character Strawn is kind of like, you know, not someone you really want to root for, but he's just got such an inherent likability on screen that even though we keep dressing him up in these wackadoodle characters, he brings so much humanity through the character, and he does so much with very little. Like, no matter how much we dress him up, it's all about his sort of really nuanced micro performances that he does. Like, Elijah's just very smart. He just knows just where to go and where he needs to bring it to make the character work. So yeah, I mean, Toby and I, we just love making those sort of characters that kind of sizzle in the dialogue. It's definitely a movie, you know, we don't take place. It's not a kitchen sink drama. The dialogue is really, you know, it's a lot for any kid to get their chops around. Like it's very adult dialogue. And it's kind of, it takes place in a movie, in a movie. It doesn't take place in reality. And we love that aspect of it because, you know, films for me are escapism. I get enough freaking depressing drama in my real life. I don't want to I don't want to see it always on the screen. So
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Elijah, one of the things I love about him is that the type of characters that he chooses to play, there's no two characters really that are alike, and they're always kind of eccentric or quirky in some kind of way. Did you write Strawn as an illusionist to begin with, and was he always in mind for the character?
Yeah, I mean, the whole project was written for Elijah.
Yeah.
Pretty much, and we're calling it a loose trilogy of the Trembling Man trilogy, and so, Elijah, we definitely want to do another one with him for sure. But yeah, he was always an illusionist. We were thought of a lot of characters where there's a sort of a sad quality to them, and just we wanted him to be like someone whose star probably shone really brightly and now is on the downward curve. And what could be worse of by being someone who's up there with David Blaine potentially, and then now is making balloon animals for Vin Diesel's kids. It just felt like a tragic arc, and then kind of like a perfect spot to start for the audience as a starting point, and then let him kind of build on that and warm up to them by just showing that he's trying, which is kind of what all parents do.
Yeah,
man. There's no sort of rule book that you follow. It's kind of like you just get in there and try and make it work, and that's why it's a coming of age film from 2 points of view.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I was amused too that you kind of made David Blaine a bit of a villain in there. That was hilarious.
Yeah, hopefully his lawyers are cool with it. We'll see. But we both love Blaine, so he kind of like in a way, and it's also is like, is it real? Is it not real? His story, because he's kind of he's prone to exaggeration. It's like all illusionists are. It's like what's real, what's not real.
Yep, totally. How involved was Elijah as like a producer on the film?
He's just he came in from day one on when the script's there, and so everything sort of kicked off once he was on board, and it became a very viable project. So and Elijah always likes to be across everything. Like we've worked as producers together on stuff. He's just got great taste, so we align like that really well. But it was cool seeing it like in at the world premiere, because he hadn't seen one frame of it.
Oh wow!
So it was a cool surprise for him to finally see it. He just held off, because if you start watching rushes and everything and you see rough cuts, it's hard to go back to that day without, it's like it tarnishes it for you. And everyone involved in the film business knows that you get jaded by watching films be constructed, and it kind of it's looking behind the curtain the whole time. And that's why when people want to show me early cuts, I just say no, I'll see it in the cinema in the end, because you get one shot with people.
Yeah. I do love that Elijah keeps coming back to New Zealand as well. And you two obviously click. Are you good mates outside of production?
Yeah, we are. Like our partners get on really well together. And so I've watched, his kids grow up, and we're good mates, and it's so much easier when you've got a bit of history together. And we had so much fun the first time around, so it was a no-brainer to do another one. So I'd love to work with him again. It just makes it real easy. There's like, I can't imagine it with a difficult person in the lead. There's so much stress involved with filmmaking anyway. Like he just makes it a joy, and everyone loves that dude. Like,
absolutely.
It's like every crew member, he's just, I don't know, man. He's just a freaking nice guy. I mean, potentially a serial killer because he's so nice. Who knows?
Hides behind those big baby blues.
He is genuinely one of the good guys of Hollywood who survived that whole child to adult thing. Not many of them do, and so he grew up in the right environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the guy. Someone else I love that I was surprised to see pop up in the film is Michael Smiley, because I hadn't read too much into the film before I saw it. I like to go into these things a little bit blind. And when he rocked up, I was taken off guard, and his character was so out there, and I loved it. What was he like to work with, and did you hunt him? Did you go after him?
Yeah. Because Michael was in the other film we did together with Elijah. So it was just like getting the family back together and trying to work with.
Of course, I forgot about that completely.
There's even a connection in the film between the two characters, between him and his character in the last film. So yeah, no, Smiley's just a gamer. He wanted to obviously we all wanted to work together again. He came down to New Zealand and Australia when he was a stand-up comic way back in the 90s, and he's always been wanting to get back. He made heaps of good friends down here. So to be honest, we didn't have to twist his arm very hard to come on board, and I just thought he'd have so much fun with their character, and he can play menace really well. Like, you just watch him in those Wheatley films. He can go super dark, and I just thought, like, it would be amazing to have a character in a kids film, theoretically a kids film, who brings that much menace to it, and also it was just great, man. He just leant into it really well. And then he looks crazy as well. His facial hair is amazing.
I interviewed him a couple of years ago, and I'm certain that he was stringing me along because I felt like he was in character the whole time.
Oh, he probably was. He takes the piss all the time.
I love it. Before I let you run, just wondering, were there any films that you leaned into for inspiration or influence when making this?
No, look, it was honestly that childhood nostalgia of reading sort of books like Will Price, which were a huge influence on myself and Toby, and then just the Wilderness Family movies and the Sea Gypsies, all that kind of stuff in the 70s that resonated so much as a kid, you know. So, and then The Edge, you know, Lee Tamahori's film,
totally,
with Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin. We freaking love that movie. Terrible title. The original title was called Bookworm. So we stole the title, and it's a tribute to Lee Tamahori's film, which is like, you know, the grown-up version of a wilderness movie. It is that film's great. If you haven't seen it, everyone should go see that film.
Yeah, I mean, he filmed that one in Vancouver. At least you got to film this one at home.
I filmed my last one in Vancouver. Wow, so yeah, it was nice to shoot in the backyard.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm an old native of Vancouver. I love the place. It's just the best. Used to live there. Thank you so much for making time. Bookworm is fantastic, and I hope that as many people listening or watching this can get out and see it. And good luck with promoting it. I hope it really gets some traction.
Thanks, man.
1983. The Disney Channel is launched, striking fear into the hearts of all child actors across Hollywood. It was run by perverts.
In 1983, Glenn, I was 4 years old.
Me too.
And I didn't watch much in the way of movies. But what a fucking cracker of a year. This is possibly the worst.
Yeah.
This is like this whole decade, really. It's the worst you could have chosen.
I know.
In order to try and pick one.
Yeah. And I was thinking about 1983. Is that what we're up to? 1983?
1983.
Yeah. It's just a bust. I think 1984 is going to be harder, to be honest with you. But yeah, I'm like, what are we doing to ourselves? How do we define one fucking great movie from this era?
Well, just
doesn't happen.
Just to give you now, I don't know what your movie is.
You can't see it. You're looking at my screen, but you can't see it. I've just got the
No, I just want to make sure I don't say it on the. Okay, good. Okay.
But
so, just to give you a bit of an overview of some of the things that were coming out that year.
Well, do you want to do what we've been doing or have done on last week and just do the top 10 box office movies and then go through the rest?
Sure.
No? Because that's kind of what we're doing now with this segment.
We've only had one. So we don't. It's not like there's a pattern.
Right.
But okay.
You
No.
do you?
No.
Okay.
Go for it.
Well, box office hits, like number 10 at the box office, Risky Business. Number 9 was Mr. Mum. Number 8 was Staying Alive. What are you looking at me
Mr.
like
Mum was in the top 10.
Number 7, Sudden Impact. Number 6, Octopussy. Number 5, War Games. Number 4, Trading Places. Number 3, Flashdance. Number 2, Terms of Endearment. And number 1, Return of the Jedi. So they are the box office hits of the year.
Because there was also things that. Well, I'm actually a bit confused because I think this when was doing the research, I didn't actually go onto the film.
Yep.
But I'm positive it appeared in both 1983 and 1984. So now I don't know what year it is. But Beverly Hills Cop came up on Wikipedia, but I think that might be 1984.
It is 1984.
Yeah.
Number one, I think, of the box office.
Scarface.
Yep.
War Games.
Uh-huh.
Was that year. Christine.
Wow. Yep.
Cujo.
Stephen King. Going for it.
Sleepaway Camp.
Mm-hmm.
Yellowbeard. What a classic. The original Eric the Viking.
Yep.
Strange Brew came out in 1993.
Wow.
And that was
Jesus.
very, very close to being my top film.
Really?
Very, very
Okay,
close for
cool.
Strange Brew. But I've gone in a different direction
Okay.
for this. I'm actually going for what I would have been watching at the time and absolutely loved.
Mm.
Still love. Don't really watch it that often.
Yep.
But was my ultimate, even more than Return of the Jedi. I don't know. I'm just not going to go for Return of the Jedi because it's too obvious.
Okay.
But it's Wind in the Willows.
What?
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That I used to watch that weekly.
Wow.
I knew the song when the toad came home. I always wanted to be Badger with his blunderbuss, and the fact that he was grumpy, where there was he lived by himself, and people were too scared to come around to his house. And I'm like, yes, that's who I want to be.
That was me with that Jiminy Cricket's Fabulous Fables and Other Wonderful Stories. I just absolutely was obsessed with that.
So that's my pick.
Okay, well, for mine, has to be Psycho 2, I think. And simply because, I don't think it's the best film of the year, but it's the most surprising film. It's a movie that didn't stand a chance when it was made. How do you make a sequel to Psycho?
Well, it is, now correct me if I'm wrong and you would know, it is the first late sequel.
Ooh, what year are we? Oh, yeah, possibly.
Because the original Psycho is, 1960 or something like that?
I'm thinking Return to Oz, but that was 85, wasn't it?
It is 85, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yep, probably is. Either way, legacy sequels weren't really a thing.
That's right.
And so it didn't really stand a chance. How do you make a movie that's better than Psycho? Well, you don't. You make one that's different and just good in its own right. And it's a slasher movie that is just, I think it's one of the great slasher movies. It's just...
with a great misdirect.
Really great misdirect.
A great MacGuffin.
Absolutely. But it's got the same sting in the tail that the original had.
Yeah.
So that's why I picked it, just because it is it's a shocking film. It's a fantastic, fun film. It's got Meg Tilly, and I used to love Meg Tilly in movies. And
the thing that's so weird about the Psycho franchise is that I feel they're very much neglected in the kind of annals of great...
Definitely.
Not trilogies, but franchises. But Psycho 3 is fucking great.
Well, I was going to say, as a trilogy, Psycho is great. As a quadrilogy, it's not.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mick.
But then they had Edge of Sanity, that other one that he did.
That's right.
The weird bondage one, which you kind of it's kind of...
But I just love the fact that Richard Franklin directed Psycho 2, and he was a bit of a protege of Hitchcock. Sort of studied under him.
I was going to say, there's a lot of people who, because he used to kind of hold court at the dining room at whatever, Universal
Swinburne
or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry.
And all of the young filmmakers would come up.
That's probably what it was.
You know, and he would have lunches with them and give them, you know, hold court and, pontificate on the art of movie
from the
making.
master. Yeah.
Because I think, Billy Wilder, from what I understand, was similar, except he was a lot more cutting.
I could be mistaken, correct me if I am, that Richard Franklin did behind the scenes filmmaking with Hitchcock. I think that's where it all began. So he did have a relationship. But then number 3, Anthony Perkins wrote and directed himself.
That's so good.
And it's the most grotesque of all of them. It is a really trippy, fucking psychosexual kind of movie. It's weird.
Jeff Fahey simply gives the performance of his career.
Sexy nun,
yeah.
But I want to give honourable mention to National Lampoon's Vacation. I mean, because why not?
Why not?
Great movie.
Well, let's have a listen to what the Boneheads think.
Welcome to Bonehead Weekly Fun Size, and this week we're going to tackle the year that was 1983. Joe Lewis at the time was 5 years old. Chad was 17.
Yep. I was cool in school, stabbing teachers, and I don't know what to go
Class
with
of
this.
1984, oddly enough, based on Chad's 1983.
Well, it all comes together now, boys.
All
That
comes
makes
together.
perfect sense.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you go
Sure.
first. I'll go second. Yeah.
So mine is going to be a little bit more obscure. Went a little on the nose and almost went on the nose this time there because there's actually several movies from 1983 I love. But I'm going to go with my favorite Carl Reiner and Steve Martin matchup, The Man with Two Brains. Did I take yours, Chad?
No, it's in my top two. It was almost my number one.
Yeah, The Man with Two Brains is my favorite. I know a lot of people love All of Me. I know a lot of people love The Jerk. I like The Jerk. But The Man with Two Brains is always, and by the way, it's the one that wasn't a box office hit.
Right.
And it's a little obscure. People don't I own the theatrical poster. I just love this movie. I love the off the wall humor in it. It's so weird. It's so goofy. It just has everything I need. And David Warner. Who's next?
So I got to go with my favorite movie from 1983. Man, I still watch it today and I still love it. I look at the poster every day. I'm looking at it right now. I love DC Cab.
Joel Schumacher.
Joel
And
Schumacher.
Bill Maher.
Oh,
Fighting crime.
I mean, the cast in this movie is insane.
It is kind of insane.
Mr. T, Paul Rodriguez, Bill Maher, Adam Baldwin. I mean, Gary Busey. I mean, the list goes on.
Because he doesn't work on whose birthday, Chad?
The King.
The Elvis, that's right.
I love this movie. It's so quotable. It's just nonstop from beginning to end.
Well, not all of it's quotable in 2025.
No.
It did not age well.
Nope. No, it does not age. But it is still an amazing piece of work, and I love it to this day. James.
Gentlemen,
Boy, he
the
shows up.
ice is going to break. You got to talk about Dead Zone. Cronenberg and Christopher Walken, what could possibly go wrong with that film? Thinking about 1983, it's the film from 83 I probably watched the most as an adult and went back to time and time again. I just really, it's well done. And I just think that everything in that movie clicked for me. I enjoyed The Dead Zone. With what character actor? That's right, Anthony Zerbe.
Derby, that's right. And
Derby.
the guy that corrected us and decided not to do the show that time just passed away today, actually. It's kind of sad.
Oh, I didn't mean to cue that.
Yeah.
Do you think me mispronouncing the name shortened his life?
I
Yep.
doubt that you killed Peter Jason. I'll go ahead and say who it was now that he's went on. So, Peter Jason. Great character actor, Peter Jason.
Whose name I could pronounce.
Yeah. This is
I only read it.
Bonehead Weekly Fun Size.
I just want to just quickly go back to the Boneheads. Shout out to Chad. DC Cab. One of the greatest movies of all time. Not only one of the greatest movies of all time, but I had the soundtrack on cassette tape, and I used to listen to it on repeat in my 1974 Toyota Corona Mark II. That was my car until for years until I smashed into the back of a 2005 Celica on a rainy night in Melbourne. Such a great film.
It is.
So, I mean, look, Man with Two Brains, great too. Dead Zone, yes. But DC Cab, well done, sir. Well done. Now, let's talk about these films.
So it was Mod Squad was 99, Avengers was 98.
Thanks.
Yep, so there we go.
Both based on TV shows.
Yep.
One TV show, I would argue, and I know you kind of disagree, much more well-known, The Avengers. Mm-hmm. Mod Squad, not so much. Mod Squad really kind of even named after a period of time that
the 60s.
people aren't familiar with. And it's like the Mods and the Rockers, which are definitely a thing. The whole movie Quadrophenia is based on this rivalry. And I feel like it was a British thing.
Mods were a British thing that did cross over when the
cross.
Beatles came along and crossed into America a bit. But no, mods were traditionally British. You've seen Velvet Goldmine. That's all about the mod movement. And, And so when they contemporize it, because this movie, The Mod Squad, is set in the late 90s.
I did mean to write down the opening scroll to
They
explain it.
give a disclaimer on the screen what mod means now. And they've contemporized that, the definition, just so they could get away with the title.
Which is just code for youth.
Yeah, young people that are rebellious.
Yeah.
And so that's where they are. Look,
I mean, it's got a decent cast by today's standards. I would argue, completely miscast in this film. But Omar Epps, Claire Danes, who I love. Claire Danes, her character, she's been on the streets since she was a little kid. She's hard as they come. No one's as tough as nails as she is. As far away from being tough as nails in this film, unbelievably soft. And Giovanni Ribisi, who is just basically playing young Giovanni Ribisi in any movie.
Hot off the set of Suburbia.
Playing the same character. He's basically playing Phoebe's brother from Friends.
It was the movie. The whole purpose of the movie was we've got these hot shot, up and coming Hollywood actors. We need a movie to put them in together. What do we got? Mod Squad. Okay.
Let's do that.
The purpose of these two movies, because clearly these two movies are both pretty fucking awful, right?
Yeah, I was desperately hoping that on the rewatch, it would have been like one of those things where, okay, at the time, I can see why I hated it.
Yep.
But now that I'm not as obsessed with certain elements,
they're
okay.
My point for choosing these was simply to see if one stands out better than the other in hindsight. Like, have they appreciated over time? One thing I did find with the Avengers, because I did watch this one within the last week just to prep for this conversation, I found it fascinating to watch in hindsight having The Kingsman come out since.
Yeah.
There's a lot of The Kingsman in it.
It's remarkable how much, like this, so this is 98, so this would have been Pierce Brosnan being Bond.
Yeah.
And this would have been made as part of the movement where people were like, remember when Sean Connery was Bond and how good that was? Let's remake like a Sean Connery-esque Bond movie.
Well, he was back with The Rock, right? And so this came not long after The Rock. And so he had that cool hair, the Sean Connery short crop cut. Yeah. And they kind of brought that Sean Connery back. And he's trying to harness the weather.
And then he decides to put on a show. It's like Panto Sean Connery in this. Panto everyone. And look, we've also discussed your love of Ray Fiennes and my hatred of Ray Fiennes.
Hey, love is a strong word. I don't dislike him at all.
I dislike him very much.
He's terrible in this though.
He's like, the weird thing is, like, I really like the Avengers TV series, and the original, the first series, it's Honor Blackman it's always John Steed, whose name now escapes me. He is the through character through the whole thing, but his female sidekicks come and go.
Yep.
And the first one was Honor Blackman, who's Pussy Galore from Goldfinger.
Yep.
And she hates him in the show too. She really actually quite dislikes him. And it works really well, but it's much more serious.
Yeah.
And then as it kind of gets further into the 60s, Diana Rigg comes in and she's a lot hipper and cooler, and the kind of witty repartee kind of comes into it, which they try and capture in this film. And it just comes, like, it was fun in the Avengers TV series.
Yeah.
In the film, it just comes off as smug and condescending.
It's cringe.
And
but what I find weird is for the Mod Squad movie, they do bring it up into the 90s. For the Avengers, they bring it into the 90s, but they're still trapped in the 60s.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they're trying to do what the Brady Bunch did, bring these 60s characters, or maybe it's even going off the Austin Powers sort of train of thought.
Yeah, totally.
You know, bring these characters as if they're caught in a time warp.
Yeah, it's modern times.
It's still got like a jalopy car.
Yeah, I drive a car with a wind-up crank, but it's got cool gadgets, so it's fine. But then, and they also, what I don't recall existing in the TV series, they do work for a government organization, but you never really see them.
Yeah,
but they bring in mother and father,
and
it's swift. But that's
a joke, by the way.
It's part of it. It's a joke of the thing. But Jim Broadbent and Fiona Shaw, who are really
you should read up on Fiona Shaw's thoughts of this film. She hates it.
I can imagine.
So bad.
These people are all serious actors. Why is Uma Thurman in it?
She was a hot property at the time.
She totally was,
Yeah.
but
But they thought this movie was going to be
they
hot
could have,
stuff.
like Elizabeth Hurley could have done the job. At least she's British.
I know.
Like, it's just so bizarre.
One
that
thing
she's
that
in it.
one thing that really did stand out to me that is, I guess to its advantage, the special effects in the Avengers held up pretty well. Those Hornets, you remember the flying Hornets?
Yeah,
like
which
the
are now
robot
every
Hornets?
day, like the drones.
The drone Hornets. The special effects of those are fucking great.
They actually look like legitimate drones that we actually have now.
Yeah, they do. But I also wanted to just go through the fact that this movie and Mod Squad were made in an era where everything at the cinemas was based on a TV IP.
Yeah.
Let's read through some of them, the good and the bad. You had Mission Impossible. You had The Fugitive. You had Charlie's Angels.
Good.
Beverly Hillbillies.
Bad.
Brady Bunch. Great.
Good.
Addams Family, Wild Wild West, Maverick, The Flintstones, Lost in Space, My Favorite Martian, George of the Jungle, Dudley Do-Right, Rocky and Bullwinkle, Leave It to Beaver, Sergeant Bilko, McHale's Navy, and Mr. Magoo.
I think only Maverick out of those last ones that you read really good.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Yep, you're right. You're right. They're pretty bad.
People do like the...
Look, I've got
No, nobody likes any of those.
I have a soft spot for not George of the Jungle, Dudley Do-Right.
Actually, George of the Jungle's all right.
Yeah, it's very meta. It's meta before.
Isn't it Brendan Fraser?
Yeah.
Because wasn't he also doing Bedazzled?
Well,
Like,
yeah.
He was the key. George of the Jungle, Bedazzled.
I think
Dudley
that's
Do-Right.
where it went wrong for him. He did the Eddie Murphy thing where he went down that family film train and couldn't get back into the adult stuff.
Yeah.
But Dudley Do-Right was written and directed by Hugh Wilson from Police Academy fame. So I was always focused on that as a...
I'm sure that they would have banked up a Brinks truck for him at that. It would have been like, do you want to do this? No, we'll pay you
Yeah, totally.
$15 million. Okay, where do I sign?
Mm-hmm. Totally. Anyway, there
I'm
we
going
go.
to be fat and bald and ugly soon, so I'll do it now while I can. Because Encino Man royalties aren't paying the bills.
So, movie battles, which one comes out triumphantly? Like, that's the wrong word, eh?
I think I'm switching my opinion. I think Avengers, but there's a gun held to my head.
Okay, so I'm going Mod Squad. I just have more fun watching it. I don't get pissed off with it like I did the Avengers.
Oh, I got so pissed off watching it. James Brolin.
So this is
Dennis Farina. Like I think it's the first time I've watched a Dennis Farina movie where I've even disliked Dennis Farina.
So we've got a stalemate here.
It's no clear winner.
We haven't planned for these situations.
It's not really a battle. I just made it sound like that. But it's just, All right. Rapid fire recommendations. We'll be super fast. I'm going to recommend that you jump on SBS On Demand or somewhere and check out Taxi from 1998, the Luc Besson written and produced film directed by Gerard Piras. It fucking holds up. Marion Cotillard is in it.
Wonderful
It is
movie.
great. If you like kind of race car movies through cities with a bit of broad comedy chucked in there, it is great. And it is part of a franchise that has 5...
Yep.
There are 5 films in the series, and they do not dip in quality
Yeah.
for all 5.
I was about to say, it's a really strong franchise.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the Police Story franchise. Like, they just hold their weight all the way through. And you do have the remake with Jimmy Fallon. Are you going to talk about that?
Yes, there is the remake. There's not just that. There's
I don't hate. I wish I did, but I don't.
There's the remake. No, I can't. I mean, horribly miscast, but a fun watch.
Yeah.
But then there's also, have you heard of Taxi Brooklyn? The
Yeah,
TV
yeah.
series with Kyla Lee and I don't know who the guy is in it. And it's supposed to, and I watched the pilot episode. I couldn't get into it. But it is basically Taxi. Like in this one though, she blackmails him with his immigration status.
Timely.
Timely.
All right, well then I'm going to suggest hitting up, I think it is on Amazon Prime. It is, this is the Tom Green documentary.
Ah.
So this is written and directed by Tom Green, and he's telling his own story. He goes right back.
Who's more reliable?
Well, the thing is, right, so Tom Green currently has a brand new show on Amazon Prime. He's moved into a farm back in his hometown of Canada, near his parents. And I guess just in order to fund his lifestyle, he's got this show commissioned where he just does farm things.
Well,
right?
cars ain't going to paint lesbians on their bonnets themselves.
Pussy wagon. That's right. The boy cows aren't going to milk themselves.
That's right.
And so, but it's it's Tom Green as you haven't seen him before. He's not as quirky as he used to be. He's just matured, and it's a weird show. But
The testosterone has slowly
But
stopped
to
pumping.
lead into that, he's made this documentary, which is fascinating because it does go right back to his early days when he was on college radio. He meets Glenn Humplink and all of his cronies that then make this cable access sort of television show that then gets picked up by MTV. And it goes through all the processes. It goes through all the dramas that happen behind the scenes. The Drew Barrymore stuff is in there. The Freddie Got Fingered stuff is in there. It's just a really, really nostalgic trip down. Daddy, would you like some sausage?
I love that I could just do that and you knew exactly what it was.
100%. Oh my god.
Look at my hooves.
Clippity clop.
Look at my hooves.
But like so much stuff in there that like I loved as a teenager that I'd forgotten about. Cow brain boat, all that kind of stuff. And he was ahead of his time. Like no one else was outrageous to that extent. And it just makes you realize that everything that's happened in media since is, in the teenage market, it's all owed to Tom Green.
Yeah.
It's called...
MTV. It's all over to MTV, who brought that stuff.
Yeah.
Like all of that kind of comedy was, you kind of think now it's YouTube and now becoming TikTok.
And it goes into that because he was the first podcaster.
Yeah,
Tom Green was the first one to have a podcast, and Joe Rogan was a guest on his podcast, and you can see the video of that episode where it clicks that I want to do this.
Yeah.
And he says to Tom Green, this is a whole new medium. And so there's some really interesting, and they go into that as well. Like there's some really interesting things in there. But the joke of the title is This is the Tom Green Documentary is because that was the name of the song. Do you remember? This is the Tom Green Show. It's not my favorite show. Remember that?
I don't, but I remember the Gary Shandling.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember that? This is the Gary Show. The Gary Shandling Show. Gary called me up and asked me if I'd write his theme song. It's about halfway through. How do you like it so far? How do you like the theme to Gary Show? So I wonder which came first.
Tom Green, I reckon.
Tom Green over Gary Shandling?
Who knows? Anyway, that is my recommendation.
There we go. What a fantastic show. I've done a great job hosting.
You have. I've done a great job cruising.
You've had a good time.
Great time. I feel a bit uncomfortable, to be honest with you. Right from the start, I'm like, this feels weird.
This feels weird.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have swapped seats so you could have been in this seat to really...
That'd feel really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Join us next week for more show.
Hit our social media up. goodmoviemonday.com. Click the links. Give us a like and a share. All that stuff.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye for now.
See ya.